Hey there, this is Mr. Mizerek with another yard chat. I'm next to one of my avocado trees, and just by chance I was walking by this tree the other day and I made a really cool discovery. Nestled in one of the branches behind the leaves is a bird's nest. Not just any bird's nest though, this is a hummingbird nest. And we can determine that based on a few clues that were left behind. One is the location of the nest. Notice how it's all the way out here on the ends of the branches. A larger nest is going to need more support from stronger branches that are more internal to the tree. A hummingbird nest, because it's so small and because hummingbirds are so small, can be out on the branch tips because, well, the nest doesn't weigh as much. Also, we can tell that the size is smaller, so that means the smaller bird's going to live here. And then, of course, we have the materials too. Hummingbirds are going to use local materials, of course, but they also occasionally weave in spider webs. And we have some evidence of those spider webs right here on the very end of the nest, on the part that's pointed towards the camera. And those spider webs help kind of weave all of these small little sticks and branches together and make it more secure. So a hummingbird, being as small as it is and as nimble as it is, has the ability to gather what you might expect, but also thin strands of spider webs, and weaving them into the nest makes them super secure. So as I bring my camera in closer, you're going to notice that there are some broken white shells in this nest. Now you might say, well, what happened here? And broken shells inside a nest are actually always a good sign. We don't know for sure, I wasn't here, but a broken shell inside the nest means that the young birds likely hatched and presumably were raised by their mom. Hummingbirds are cared for by their mother. The males, once they mate with the female, they are off flying around trying to find another mate. So you'd have the female here taking care of the eggs and the young. And because the shells are broken in the nest, and because the nest is intact, that likely means the birds were large enough and old enough to fly away on their own. If you compare that with a nest that's falling apart or eggshells that are on the ground, that might be a sign that the birds fell out of the nest, that the shells broke prematurely, or that a predator found the nest. And again, we don't see any of those signs here. So these are all excellent pieces of evidence that make us believe that these hummingbirds were able to hatch and fly away. Hummingbirds are super interesting. They are uniquely American, and by that I mean they are native to North and South America, so you won't find them in any other part of the world, at least not in the wild. And they can hover. They are tiny and they can hover. They can flap their wings 50 times a second, and they take on more of a helicopter-like flight path by being able to stop and hover in one spot in the sky, and then they can move up, down, left, right, and then fly like a traditional bird. But because they can flap their wings so quickly, they need to consume a lot of food. So they go after nectar and flowers. Specifically, they're going for glucose, which is a sugar, and they need to consume a lot of it in order to feed those muscles that are causing the wings to flap at such a fast rate. So hummingbirds, when they're not sitting in their nest, they are constantly looking for food, and that's why it's super important that we provide food sources to our hummingbirds year-round. They need to fly year-round, not just during the spring and summer when the flowers are out, but year-round, so that we can support our local wildlife. Hummingbirds are also diurnal. That means they are awake during the day, not nocturnal like, let's say, an owl. And that means that we get to enjoy them when we go outside. We get to see their erratic flight path. We get to hear their chirping. And in this case, if you get really lucky, you can spot one of their nests. I hope you enjoyed this yard chat. Make sure that you slow down, you look around, and if you're lucky, you might make some really interesting discoveries.